Why you can't remember being a baby?
You lived an entire life before the age of 3. You were born. You opened your eyes for the first time. You heard your mother's voice. You tasted food. You took your first steps. You said your first word. And you remember none of it. Not a single moment. Most people assume the answer is simple. Your brain wasn't ready yet. You were too young. But that's
what
not
Taco
quite
said.
right. And the real answer is far stranger than you'd expect. Because your baby brain wasn't failing to record your life. It was recording everything. Your memories were there, but something destroyed them. In 1905, Sigmund Freud...
Why have you got Heisenberg as Sigmund Freud? I know he did some really weird stuff, but I don't think he broke bad.
Became the first person to put a name to this phenomenon. He called it infantile amnesia. Babies can form memories. We know this for a fact. In the 1980s, psychologist Carolyn Rovey Collier at Rutgers University ran an elegant experiment. She tied a ribbon from a baby's ankle to a mobile hanging above their crib. The babies quickly learned that kicking made the mobile move, and they loved it. When she brought the same babies back days later, they remembered. They started kicking immediately. Even 2-month-olds could hold that memory for a couple of days. 6-month-olds remembered for weeks. So infant brains can learn. They can store information. They can recall it. But those...
What? I am 28 years old, and I feel like the idea of tying my foot to something that spins and jiggles, I find that to be a very amusing proposition. Is that a problem? I feel like that might be a problem. What are we watching? We are watching Why We Do Not Remember Being a Baby, Harry. Also, hello, how are we? Hello, Fox. Is that a weird thing? I just, you know what I'm saying? All right, moving on. Judgment aside.
Memories don't last. By adulthood, every trace is gone. And for decades, scientists couldn't fully explain why. The first part of the answer is structural. The hippocampus, a small curved structure deep in your brain, is the engine of memory formation. It's what allows you to take a lived experience,
Why was there a seahorse?
birthday, a conversation, a walk in the rain, and encode it as an episode you can later replay in your mind. In adults, the hippocampus works with the prefrontal cortex to tag, store, and retrieve these episodes. But in infants, this system is severely underdeveloped. The connections between the hippocampus and the cortex are still being built. Key regions like the dentate gyrus, which acts as a gateway for new memories, aren't fully wired until somewhere between ages 2 and 4. So your infant brain could form short-term memories. It just couldn't move them into long-term storage the way an adult brain does. But that's only half the story. And honestly,
Well, it's only half the story, Taco. The man is about to tell us. He's going to tell us all about it. Don't you worry. But what I've learned so far is that babies are in early access. There's a few bugs to patch, and there's a few new content patches to make it a full game.
Comes next is even stranger. Because in 2014, 2 neuroscientists in Toronto discovered something that changed how we think about infant memory entirely. Sheena Jocelyn and Paul Franklin at the Hospital for Sick Children had a hypothesis that sounded almost absurd. What if the very process that builds your brain is also what destroys your memories?
What?
Here's what they meant. In the first years of life, your hippocampus is producing new neurons at an extraordinary rate. This is called neurogenesis, and it's essential. Those new brain cells are what wire up the circuits you'll use for the rest of your life. But Jocelyn and Franklin suspected there was a cost. Every time a new neuron integrates into an existing circuit, it disrupts the connections that were already there, the connections that were holding your memories. To test this, they ran experiments on mice. When they artificially increased neurogenesis in adult mice, those mice started forgetting things they had previously learned. And
can I ask a question? Why is it always rats, mice? Why? Is it even similar? How does the test on a mice compare? How does that translate to my brain? I don't know about you, but I feel like I do a lot of different things to them. Because I don't think that's got to be the reason. I'm sure nobody just went one day, we need to test these things. But we can't test them on humans. Do you know what no one likes? Mice. I don't think that can't be the reason. That can't be the reason. But surely it's just there's such a difference there that you kind of have to take the findings with a pinch of salt, no?
When they slowed neurogenesis in infant mice, those infant mice held onto their memories longer than normal. The results, published in the journal Science, pointed to a deeply counterintuitive conclusion. Your baby brain wasn't too weak to hold memories. It was too busy growing. The same explosion of new neurons that built your brain also overwrote the memories stored inside it. Your earliest experiences weren't lost because they were never saved. They were lost because your brain kept building new rooms and tearing down the old walls in the process. But there's another layer to this. And it might be the strangest part of all.
Okay.
To form what scientists call autobiographical memory, the kind of memory where you are the main character of an experience you can replay in your mind, you need something most people take for granted.
Right.
You need a sense of self. You need to understand that you exist as a person, separate from the world around you, that things are happening to you. Developmental psychologists Mark Howe and Mary Courage argued in the late 1990s that this is a critical missing piece. Before roughly 18 to 24 months of age, infants don't recognize themselves as distinct individuals. The classic test for this is simple. Put a dot of rouge on a baby's nose and place them in front of a mirror. Before 18 months, babies treat the reflection like another child. They don't reach for the mark on their own face. After
That's crazy. There's actually there's a point in time where I wouldn't have associated myself as myself. That's crazy. Because that's kind of like dogs, right? I mean, dogs will go to a mirror sometimes and be like, who's that fucking guy? Or they bark. You're saying the humans do the same thing? I didn't know that. That's kind of crazy. So babies have no ego, so that's why they forget everything. That must be what it is. I've just got no ego. That's why I can't remember anything. Yes, we found out.
18 months, they do. They recognize that the person in the mirror is them. And that moment, the birth of self-recognition, closely tracks with the earliest age at which autobiographical memories can form. In other words, you can't remember being a baby partly because there was no you yet. Not in the way that you experience yourself now. There was no narrator inside your head packaging experiences into a story that belonged to a person called you, which raises an uncomfortable question. If you had no continuous sense of self and the brain that held your earliest experiences physically rewired itself beyond recognition, is the baby in your old photos actually you, or is it someone else entirely? Someone who lived in the same body but whose mind was literally disassembled and rebuilt.
I mean, is this coming across as like the angle of, was it Theseus' ship? Like, how many parts of the original ship can you like replace until it's no longer the same ship? I feel like this is pretty much an apt description of what he's saying here, right? Like you were a ship, and then you had to keep replacing bits of yourself, and then at what point does it just become like you were just not that you were not the baby you were? You know what I mean?
Neuron by neuron into the person you became. There's one more piece, language. Developmental psychologist Catherine Nelson spent years studying how children form lasting memories. Her conclusion was that language doesn't just describe our memories, it structures them. Before you could speak, your experiences were encoded as raw sensory impressions. Sounds, textures, emotions, light. But without words to organize them, those impressions had no framework to attach to. Once children begin speaking, and especially once they begin having conversations with adults about past events, remember when we went to the park? Their ability to form lasting memories improves dramatically. Language gives memory a skeleton. Without it, experiences are like water with no container. They exist.
So before language, it's just basically building a bunch of rooms and nobody's able to fucking decorate them because they don't have the language to associate with.
In the
Seems
moment,
efficient.
Then they're gone. And this isn't just theory. Psychologist Chi Wong at Cornell found that the age of your earliest memory actually varies depending on your culture. In Western cultures where parents frequently narrate their children's experiences, asking questions, telling stories, building personal narratives, earliest memories tend to start around age 3.5. Among the Maori of New Zealand, whose oral tradition places extraordinary emphasis on personal history and storytelling, average first memories reach all the way back to age 2.5. In some East Asian cultures where early childhood narratives focus less on the individual, first memories tend to start closer to age 4 or later. The culture
like
you grow up
double.
in literally shapes how far back your memory reaches. So here's what actually happened to your earliest years. Your hippocampus wasn't ready to build long-term memory.
Well, okay, this is bugging me. Why the seahorse? Why the seahorse when he says hippocampus? I might be in the rare minority, but I think hippos are very cute, and I would have loved a cute hippo next to the campus, the hippocampus. Why didn't you put a hippo on a college campus? I would have loved it. The seahorse is winding me up. Because you have no place here, seahorse, and you know it.
And even when it started to, the flood of neurons tore through the circuits that held them. You had no concept of self to anchor experiences to, and you had no language to give those experiences a structure that could survive. It wasn't one thing, it was everything all at once. Every human being who has ever lived went through this. Every person you've ever met has a black hole where the first years of their life should be. And the answer to why isn't that your brain was too simple.
Speaking of black holes, we also have a very good video. I think it's the last one posted about black holes. So if you want to know about black holes, we've got that one there.
It's that your brain was doing something far more important than remembering. It was becoming you, and that required, quite literally, destroying the person who came before.
W plug. Okay, that was informative. I know I don't exactly have the same thing now because I'm actually like old as hell, but I mean, in long story short, it's just basically everything's happened at once and it can't filter it, right? I feel like I relate to that in a little way. Maybe that's why I forget everything with the old ADHD, just everything. Maybe it just doesn't get sorted away properly because I think that's why I forget like so much. Just like I forget to post like every day that I plan to, and it's been 2 weeks since I posted last. But if you enjoyed, drop a comment. Say James, get back to the basement if you're still here. Thank you. You take care.